Thank you all for coming. For those who don't know me, just to clarify again, my name is Leo Renetta. I'm the Director for Public Interest Programs, and I work in the Law Career Services office across the alley. All of you should be getting very familiar with our office this month. How many people here are first-year students? Majority, clearly. Any second years? Few third years? Okay, 4, good. This is the very important time, primarily for first years, to listen and get some information about how they can have their work experiences that they accrue here during school funded and paid for. Now, whether if you're a day student or a night student, you have a host of semesters in which to work, both during the academic term and during the summer. We often talk about first years, particularly, and to some extent also second years, doing unpaid work. In other words, your employer is not paying you to do the work that you're doing over the academic term or over the summer. But just because something is unpaid doesn't mean that you can't get compensation. Primarily, first-year students are looking at public interest employers and public sector employers. That distinction essentially means 501c3 organizations, nonprofit organizations, or government agencies, whether federal, county, state. And there are ways that you can get funding to support your work in those offices. A few quick things I want to tell you about that are happening this week. For those who don't know, Friday is the deadline to apply for Public Interest Public Sector Day, which is a very important job fair that happens Saturday, February 4th. How many people have heard about PILF? How many people are planning to apply for jobs through PILF? I would strongly encourage everybody to do that. Everybody. Everybody. Particularly in this room. Certainly third years, it has less of a value in terms of its return because the employers aren't really looking at people to fill entry-level positions. But it's a great way for you to build relationships, meet employers, and again, I would encourage everybody to apply. The deadline is this Friday at noon. We have resume cover letter drop-in sessions scheduled all this week. I'm in the office, my colleagues are in the office, and there's some people in this room that I've already seen who came to our drop-in session this morning. Come by, bring your materials, have them looked at. It really doesn't take too long. This week I've made a special exception in terms of my availability. I've actually, some of you may even know that I've been responding to your requests about email review and cover letter review even into the evening at home from my email. I want to make sure that everyone takes advantage of this very important career day. That means getting your stuff done, ready to apply by Friday. Okay? Any questions about that? Come see me right after this session. Okay? With that, I want to take this opportunity to introduce my friend and colleague, Gabby De La Vega, who's our Director of Financial Aid. She's incredibly knowledgeable about all of the particularities with respect to how students go about obtaining funding for some of these positions. It's a little bit early in the cycle, but given the fact that PIPS Day is coming up, we wanted you to be able to think about how you might get paid so that you are aware of that as you go into this application cycle. Okay? A lot of things are still up in the air in terms of exactly how much work-study funds we will have and exactly what the living loan allowances, loan expenses you can acquire for the summer or fall might be. But she's here to answer your questions, give you broad strokes review of how you get funded for doing summer work, or fall, I should say, and we'll answer all of your questions at the end. FYI, this session was called Summer Funding Options, but it's also true for HLPers. If you're spending your fall working in an apprenticeship full-time, this session is appropriate for you as well. Any questions for me before we get started? Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Gabby De La Vega.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. So if you are receiving financial aid, you will have noticed that your financial aid is supposed to cover you from approximately August 15th through May 15th. You get a 9-month living allowance for the entire year. After taking away your expenses for tuition, books, insurance, if you maxed out on your eligibility, you currently have approximately $2,400 a month to live off of. If you're going to be doing something this summer and you need to get money to cover your expenses, in order to receive financial aid, you must be enrolled in classes, whether that's HLP, STEP, taking a class here in the evening, or studying abroad, going through our Paris program, or any other approved ABA school, you must be enrolled in order to receive financial aid. Summer is the beginning of our next year financial aid award period, which has started. If you're receiving federal loans, you must complete your FAFSA, and you must do it now. Now is the time to do it. The deadline to get this, the priority deadline to get this done is March 1st. So you should have all received information, an email from the Department of Ed saying, renewal time, here's your PIN. You should all know your PIN. Go online, do your FAFSA. Because if you received aid this last year, your information's already pre-filled in there. All you have to do is update it with your income for 2011, and indicate if you're going to be doing your taxes or not. Submit it, and you're done with that. Any questions on that? Yes?
Can we submit it before we've done our taxes for last year?
Yes, you can submit it. There's a box that says estimated or will file taxes,
Okay.
and you just put it on there. If you've got all your information and you're ready to put in the figures, go ahead and submit it. Once you do your taxes, if your taxes and your expenses were different than what you put on the FAFSA, then you can go back online and revise it with the exact amounts.
Okay.
Some of you may be selected for verification, which means the Department of Education will come back and say, okay, we need a copy of your taxes. If that happens, you'll get a letter from us and you'll have to submit it for us. It does not mean you did something wrong. It just means the Department of Education, it's a way of them verifying all the information is corrected. A certain percentage of everybody that submits a FAFSA is verified, just to keep the integrity of the programs. Again, they're not looking to see that you wrote something on there wrong. It's just if your number came up and you're being selected for verification.
Okay, so our FAFSA is due March 1st.
The priority deadline is March 1st.
Okay.
If you've got that in, then we can go ahead and award you. There's certain things that are that we are only able to award to students that apply by the March 1st deadline. One of them is our Perkins loan that we have available as you go into your second or third year loan. We have very limited funding on Perkins, but it's a good loan in the sense that there is no interest accrual on that loan until 9 months after graduation, and the interest on that loan is 5% versus your Stafford loans and your PLUS loans or private that are a lot more than that. Okay, so right now, whether you're going to be receiving aid over the summer or not, everybody that's going to receive aid in the fall needs to do this by March 2nd. So that's the first thing that we need everybody to do. Then, if you're going to be needing financial aid money during the summer, you'll need to fill out a financial aid application with our office. That will be available on Tuesday, February 21st, the day after the holiday. And we will email it out to everybody, along with the budgets for all of the programs we have, and again, the minimum requirement for you to be able to, letting you know everything I'm saying, it'll be in writing so you can refer to it on that. But, so there's two things you need to do, the FAFSA, and then fill out the form letting us know what you're going to be doing over the summer so that we can award you aid. STEP and HLP have, you'll be doing a lot of units with them, so we'll package you accordingly. If you're taking classes here, you'll need to tell us how many units you're going to be taking. In order to receive aid, you must be enrolled in 3 units. So you can either do that by taking a class here, and I believe most of the summer classes are offered in the evening, unless you're in the STEP or HLP program, those are all during the day. But all the other classes are offered in the evening so that students either have the time to work at an internship, externship, or whatnot during the day. If you do not want to take a class during the day and you get one of these great internships, because you're going to apply by Friday, there is a way of getting credit for that. You will have to talk to the people that are in charge of externships or internships, and there will be an info session for that on February 7th, I believe at noon.
And one thing I will also say is you're more than welcome to talk to me. I co-teach the judicial externship class and the civil field placement externship class. I'm very well versed on how you calibrate the number of hours you need to work to obtain that credit. So please come and see me if you have questions specifically about obtaining academic credit for the work that you do.
So you would be able to get credit. If you're getting credit, it means you are paying tuition for the class. for the free work you're doing, but you're also taking credit. Remember that you need 88 units to graduate, so that will be accounted for. The summer tuition rate is $13.40 per unit, which is what the rate is right now. It will go up in the fall. It usually goes up a little bit in the fall, so you'll be paying a little bit less right now, and it will give you the 2-month living allowance. Yes?
Okay, wait, so if we get a job through PIPS Day for the summer, and it's unpaid, we pay the school tuition for us
You could.
to
So
work free.
you could. If you want to receive money for your living expenses, you need to be enrolled for school.
Okay.
So you can either take a class at night
Okay,
and get your 3 units for your credit, whatever class you're taking, and then you'll get money for the 2 months.
okay, and so the money that we hypothetically would get from our FAFSA loans for the summer, that, does that money detract from the money we would get for the fall?
So summer is the beginning of the next year's academic season.
So, yes.
So whatever you do for summer is added on to a regular fall, spring year. So if you take 3 units over the summer, you will get a living allowance of last year's budget was approximately $9,000 for the summer, and that accounted for your tuition for the 3 units, your allocation to buy books, and the 2-month living allowance of about $2,400. So you're eligible to take up to $9,000 for the summer, depending on what program you're doing. That $9,000 would then get tacked on to your regular 9-month budget. So no, it does not take away, it adds to it. That being said, during the summer, you're eligible to receive, most likely, PLUS loans only. If you're in the STEP program or if you're in the HLP program, at that point you will be able to obtain a portion of your Stafford loans. But if you're not, if you're doing the Paris program, any other abroad program, or taking classes through us in the summer, your eligibility for summer aid would be all through a PLUS or private loan, depending on what you decide to take. Most of our students take PLUS over private. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so that would fluctuate depending on what program, right?
Yes.
So since your program in the summer is $13.40, if other schools is $900 a unit, then it would go.
So if
down.
you're doing a program through another school, then they would fill out a financial aid consortium agreement. So let's say you're going to McGeorge for the summer. We would give you a form, you would send it to them. They would tell us on there the time that you'll be in that program and how much money you need to complete that program. Your aid would then be based on the money they say you need. So whatever they tell us you need to complete that program, it's what you're going to do. So another thing to remember with that is if you're doing an abroad program or if you go through our Paris program, you're going to get money to do the program that you're enrolled in. So if you go to Paris, you're going to get a 1-month living allocation for you to be in Paris. It does not give you money to pay for your obligations and anything else you still have going on here. So you do have to take that into account. So if you go abroad to another school and you're in Spain for 2 months, great, we'll give you money to be in Spain, cover your expenses in Spain for 2 months, but you're not going to have money to pay for stuff here. Any questions? Okay.
Gabby?
Yeah.
What's the least amount of units you can take during the summer to qualify for financial aid?
3. You must be enrolled in at least 3 units to receive aid.
Gabby, can you speak quickly as to why a student might choose a PLUS loan versus a private loan?
A PLUS loan is a federal loan. It's guaranteed by the Department of Education. It does have a set interest rate of 7.9. A private loan is based on your credit. You have to go through up to the companies that offer it. It's a variable interest rate. It will change and fluctuate with whatever the market is doing. Right now, the interest rates are low. However, it's not guaranteed. If you ever do decide to go into public service or down the line, if you ever wanted to consolidate your loans, a private loan would not be eligible to be consolidated into those loans. So if you're thinking long-term public service, 10-year forgiveness down the line, that loan, that private loan would not be able to be taken into account for that. Yeah.
Sorry, also
That's
with
okay.
the abroad program.
The what? The broad,
Yeah, so. Well.
Okay. If you think about it, yes.
Can you talk more about the tenure forgiveness you just mentioned?
Okay, it's not that easy because it's pretty long. I'll talk about it after we talk about summer, but yes, we can definitely talk about the tenure repayment. Yes?
Okay, so some of the apps are due later. So you want something on February 21st that says what we're gonna be doing over the summer.
That's when our forms will be available, because everybody is like, where's the form, where did I tell you? It's gonna change, because the applications aren't due for PISP till Friday. If you're applying for HLP or STEP, you won't know till the beginning of February. You might sign up, you're saying, I'm going to Spain this summer, and then you get a great internship opportunity, because you applied this Friday, and you want to stay here. So your plans will change. On February 21st is when we'll have the summer application. On there, you'll tell us what, at that point, you think you're doing this summer. If your plans change at any time, let us know, and we'll either cancel your aid or we'll recalculate your budget based on whatever your new plans are. So we'll work with you, but you just got to tell us. Yes?
Can you talk about work study or how that works, particularly for
I was-
HLP? I'm sure you're gonna get there.
That was the next step.
Okay, great.
That was a great segue there. So a lot of the internships that you do are unpaid, either during the summer or if you're in HLP, you'll be doing one in the fall. We have a program, it's funded through the federal government, it's called Federal Work Study, where you're given an allocation, a certain award, and then you earn that money as you clock in hours at your internship. So say you're working at the DA's office this summer, that you got an internship, and it's unpaid. The DA has no money to pay you over the summer. Well, GGU has a special program through our work study program where if you're interning for someone in the public sector and they are not for profit, GGU will pay their portion of the work study funding that normally they have to contribute so long as they're a not-for-profit company and they are not employing another student whom they are paying. So if they sign our paper that says, we don't have any money, we're broke, we're not-for-profit, then GGU will pick up their tab. So that's a way of you being able to earn money versus borrowing money. If you receive work study over the summer and you are not enrolled in classes, whatever amount you earn over the summer will be deducted from your fall and spring budget. But if you're enrolled, then it doesn't get deducted. Okay?
So
You first here.
All right, sorry, you said nonprofit, but does that also include the public sector, like the DA's office?
The work study is available for profit, not-for-profit agencies. So you can get work study depending on where you're interning. The portion that your employer has to pay will depend on whether they're for-profit or not. Some of them that are not-for-profit can pay a small amount, so we bill them a small amount, and some of them cannot pay anything. So those, we pick up the tab. Our summer work study funding is limited. We've traditionally been able to fund about 20 to 30 students. So again, that we award on a first-come basis for students that have completed the FAFSA and then tell us that they want to be considered for work study and have a job lined up. So you got to have all three. And then we will try to fill as many people as we can through work study if that's what you want, because it is better to earn the money versus taking out the loan. And after that, it will be just loan eligibility.
So just a follow-up question before we get to the next one. So what is there an a Golden Gate University application?
There's a summer financial aid application that will be available on the 21st.
And that's work study is part of that?
That's one. And if you're applying for work study, there will be a form where you tell us where you'll be working. That too,
also
for
comes
the
out.
summer, will be available on the 21st of February. Got a question here?
And then with the work study, it wouldn't have an origination fee or an interest rate, but it'd still be taxable as
It is
income?
taxable. Most students can claim to be exempt, and then no taxes, or very, very minimal taxes are taken out. But we do take that into account when constructing the budget for it.
I was just gonna, is there a certain amount of hours that you have to work to be eligible? Because I know like in undergrad you would have to work whatever.
So
hours.
you get a work study award, and you've got the summer to use it. if you're interning somewhere, you're most likely gonna clock in or be volunteering more hours than what your award is. You'll get paid based on the hours you work. So if you're working full-time, you'll earn all of that pretty within a month and a half into the summer. So as far as minimums, no, there isn't. You do have a time frame to earn it, and that is the time of the regular summer program, which I don't know when it starts, but I believe it's around the 29th of May, and it's probably going through like the 20th of July. So you've got that 2-month period. We don't know the budget yet for work study, so we don't know. I can tell you last year's award for summer was $3,000, and students earned that. There was a question back there, and then
2 questions. How is the award calculated? Is it independently calculated based on the student, or it's just a...
So the award for whatever program, whether it's summer, HLP, or whatever, is based on whatever program it is. So if it's over the summer, we will have an award that everybody that's receiving work study gets. And then they earn it as they clock in hours. That'll be contingent as to how many people we know they're saying, I want it, I want it, I want it, and how much money the federal government gives us.
Okay, so you're saying it was about 3,000?
Yeah. And we funded between 20 and 30 students. And a lot of students sign up and say, oh, I want work study, because they fill out the box and they say they want work study, really not knowing or really not having any interest in doing a placement. So we award it on a first come, first served basis. Then they're like, oh, is that what that is? I don't want it, and decline it. But then we have to wait for them to say no before we can go out and make other offers. You said you had 2 questions.
Yeah, just a second question. So you mentioned, like if you're enrolled versus non-enrolled in at least 3 units while getting work study. So say that you're not enrolled, so that amount, let's say $3,000, that's deducted from like the amount of loans you could possibly take out for the academic year, correct? So let's say you're given an award of $40,000, but you only take out $30,000. So it's not like you're taking out more loans. It's just, so now you have a $37,000 bank.
Your eligibility is less. So
Okay.
let's go back to this year. So for the current year, if you're maxed out on your loans, if you took out all your eligibility and the money you have is going to just barely get you through May 15th, you would most likely not be able to afford a cut in that.
I see.
So that would be something you have to consider when deciding whether or not to enroll in classes over the summer. With work study, if you're awarded work study, to receive loan eligibility for money expenses, for your living expenses, you must be enrolled in 3 units to be eligible for loan. But if you're enrolled in 1 class or 2 classes, you're not eligible to receive loan money for the term. But if you receive work study, then those funds will not get deducted for next year. But again, that's all you're going to get. You're not going to get the $2,400 allocation for living expenses. There's a question over here.
I think you answered it, but it was just what exactly was deducted from. So, but it's just any loans that you took out through the school, it would be deducted from that for your award for the fall and spring.
If you're not enrolled in classes over the summer and you take work study, your loan eligibility for next year is deducted.
Okay.
That's the only time it's deducted.
And it's just the exact amount that you earned.
So if you got work study and you get a $3,000 award and you earn the $3,000, your eligibility will be $3,000 less. 15 in the fall, 15 in the spring. If you're awarded $3,000 and you only earn $1,000, we'll only deduct $1,000.
Okay.
So it looks like we need to take a class this summer regardless.
If you want to receive money for your living expenses, yes.
Without
And that's not us, that's the federal government.
without this deduction the next semester, right?
The deduction only comes into play when work study is on there, but yes.
I thought you were only allowed to take out like a maximum of like $64,000 or something, whatever the max
Your
amount
cost of
is.
attendance is based on whatever program you're doing. So the 64, 65 sounds about right for the full-time budget for first-year students right
Yeah.
now. That was based on you being here from middle of August, middle to May for 30 units.
Right.
As you do next year, that'll be more or less the budget for fall and spring, but we'll add on whatever you're doing over the summer. So your total cost of attendance
Okay, so it
for
was-
next year will be $75,000. Yes, they are big numbers. It all adds up, and you will have to think about it eventually. Keeping that running tab is also very important when trying to decide what to do and what you can afford to do. Can you afford to volunteer this summer, knowing that you're going to have to take out a $9,000 loan to be able to do that? Or what is best, and that's when consulting with career services is really important to see what is best for your individual situation, what you want to do in the long run. Yes.
So as first year students, once we finish our courses in May, we're allowed to work in an outside paid job, right?
Yes, you can work during fall and spring. The restriction is for first year students, you cannot work. As you go into your second year, if you're a full-time student, there is a maximum amount of hours you can work. I believe it's 19, but I'm not positive on that. During the summer, you can work full-time.
Okay, so would there be an advantage to getting like a job on top of the internship that's like just you work on the weekends or something? Like, is that considered, you're not allowed to do that if you're receiving money federally?
You can work full-time if you're receiving a class. So, but what you have to take into account is if you're doing that internship, then taking a class here at night and working on the weekends.
Right, well, I'm saying if you chose to not take a class, and so you're basically just having that extra job to make money so that
You can do that.
as an option. Okay.
Yep. But if you take a 3-unit class at night, again, it frees up your day. So you can, if you're doing an internship, great, or if you're working full-time doing law or non-law related work, you can earn the money and save it. Definitely. Or pay for your expenses so that you don't take as much of a loan during the summer.
Does GGU do PILF grants for public interest work?
We do. We're going to talk a little bit about that at the end.
Oh, okay.
If I could interject at one point and say, everybody, and particularly in my office, knows exactly the situation that you're in. Borrowing a lot of money, and it's certainly anxiety producing. But as compared with 7, 8, 9, 10 plus years ago when me and everybody else in my office graduated from law school, there are an inordinate number of programs for you to take advantage of, particularly in public interest and public sector work. But there's the best thing that you could do, whether you're interested in public interest, public sector work, or private sector work, is to meet with financial aid, get a real good sense of how much you are going to owe by the time you're done with school, and then figure out what that repayment plan would be. I'm an incredibly anxious person. And one of the ways that I manage that anxiety is I just gather as much information as I can. My wife and I bought a house in February, and so we just figured out, okay, well, we're going to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy this house. We don't have anywhere near that. But it helped to really sit back and think about, before we did anything, how much it's really going to cost. And so, and I'll tell you, 90% of the students that I meet with ask them, how much are you going to owe by the time you're done with school? And they're not really sure. And they've never really figured out how much their repayment terms are going to be. You need help doing that? Come see me. I'll figure that out in an instant. And while it's obviously dread-inducing to actually know what that number is, trust me, after you sit on that for a second, you'll be like, okay, well, that's what it is. And in short order, everybody just owns that. It's fine.
It's entirely dependent on whether you can get a job, though.
At least at first. 5, 6 years out of school, people don't, that's not part of the zeitgeist. It's not part of the zeitgeist in terms of what people do. And in fact, most people who graduate from law school pay off their loans at an accelerated basis because they start making an income that's so high vis-a-vis everybody else out in the universe that it's just a non-issue. It's gonna be a struggle, certainly at first. But come see us. We'll help you keep a long-term perspective and understand there's great value in what you're doing and lots of programs you need to take advantage of. So come see us, okay?
In 6 to 9 months after graduation, if you do not have a job lined up, the government is willing to work with you, and there are repayment options that would sometime, depending on what program you're in, could require a 0 monthly payment. But hey, as far as the department is, you made a payment. It was calculated based on your income. Based on your income, since you're not working, you can't really take that into account. Your monthly payment could be calculated as a 0, and that counts as a payment.
That's right.
And that counts as, when you go down the line, if you stay in public service, you have to make a certain number of payments to have a heck of a lot of loan forgiven.
But what Gabby's saying is right. Even if you're not in public service, if you graduate and your income is low enough, and it doesn't even have to be 0, you can qualify for a qualifying payment on your loan of $0. That simply didn't exist 6 years ago, even 6 years ago. Trust me, there's lots of programs, and even just as recently as this last year, the Obama administration created several rule changes to how loans are given to students. Does everybody know exactly how those rule changes work? Come see us.
And actually, that's a wonderful segue to something that's coming out very soon. So you might have remembered last summer there was this problem with the deficit and Congress and all this wonderful stuff. Well, they passed a budget to take care of the looming problem of the day. But in that legislation, in order to balance the budget, they did something to grad students which wasn't so cool. And what that was, remember that you guys, most of you have Stafford loans, and most of you have 2 types of Stafford loans, a subsidized Stafford loan and an unsubsidized Stafford. The total amount you can get with both of them is $20,500. That's not going to change. But what is changing is that subsidy that the government provided to us for $8,500 worth of your Stafford loan, that subsidy is going away. So the loans you got this first year, or your second year, if you're a second-year student, those will continue to keep the subsidy on it. You won't start accruing interest until 6 months after you've graduated or you've separated from the university. But there will be no more subsidies on Stafford loans. So you'll still be able to borrow $20,500. However, it will all be accruing interest from the moment it's dispersed. There's no interest grace period after graduation. It just starts to accrue. The interest rate is 6.8 on that loan. So that is something that is not fun.
That's
Yes,
awful.
it is awful.
Really bad.
It is, but we can't change it. It was passed back in
You're
August.
killing us over here. Like, how much money can we take that?
Again, there are great repayment plans and programs available to try and go hand in hand. But up front, the government is saying, no, we're not going to subsidize you on it. You have to put in the time.
Why is the tuition going to go down? Why is it so high anyway?
That's, there's a lot of things.
Questions
That's the
so
workshop
high.
next week.
Huh?
Actually, in the Bay Area and in the state of California, our tuition is one of the lower ones, and we do take that into account when determining it. But it is taken into account, and that's a great conversation. It's why is the cost, and a lot of people are talking about it.
If I can just say something, there's almost a $2 trillion student loan debt bubble, so I really wouldn't worry too much about it. It's gonna pop, and eventually these loans will be either paid off with tax dollars or written off. So I wouldn't lose sleep over it. It's untenable, and it cannot be paid off.
I was just going to ask too that you were saying the origination fee on the plus loans is no longer 2.5, it'll be 4.
So along with the subsidy, and the subsidy going away, the upfront repayment incentives that the government offered on both the Stafford and the plus loan is going away. So the origination fee on your plus loan is 4%, but they've been subsidizing 1.5 of it. That will no longer happen. So 4% of your loan will be taken away. That being said, we build that into your budget so you can borrow the amount that's going to be taken away, so you still have the $2,400 to live off of every month. Yeah.
And then I was just going to make one more comment that I'm sure, speaking of anxiety, everyone's going to want to hear, but just as far as repaying your loans, it is a very serious thing, especially in the legal profession as far as your bar status and all of that. So
It affects your credit rating. It affects, you have to report it. If something goes wrong, it can be reported to the bar. As far as any delinquent accounts or stuff like that, it is moral character, fitness, you do have to take into account. Federal student loans cannot be discharged in bankruptcy, so they will stay with you. Yes, they could at some point be swallowed up somehow, but it's going to stay with you. and how you choose to do that.
Okay, so overall, like, if we take a class this summer, it's $1,300 per unit.
$1,340.
So, okay, so that's like $3,900 if you're taking a 3-unit class, or probably $4,000. And then you get like whatever, $9,000 in living expenses, or
$2,400 a month for 2 months. So
Okay.
the total
Okay.
budget, roughly $9,000.
okay, so that's like the total cost of taking a class
a
this summer.
3-unit class.
Okay.
We haven't figured out the budget yet or done the figures and say, okay, this is what it costs, but that will be out soon.
Okay.
But yes, if you took a 3-unit class over the summer, you would most likely, if you are currently maxed out on your eligibility and you need all of the resources available to you to pay your expenses, you'd be taking about a $9,000 loan. After tuition and paying your books, you would get approximately $4,800 to live off of for the 2 months. I would suggest you all look into your budgets and see if there's anything you can cut or try and, if you're not sharing have a roommate or whatnot, see if that's something that's feasible for you. Yes.
So I think we've talked a lot about loans, and I understand everybody's very concerned about it. Are there any other funding options that we're going to discuss today, such as grants or other non-loan?
So the non-loan would be work study.
Yes.
And the other stuff that's available. There are outside sources that you can apply for scholarship, and you're welcome to do that. We get some listings, and we'll be sending out an email in the next couple of weeks with any scholarship offers that are available through outside sources. And through the university, we also have our the acronym, Public Interest Law Foundation scholarships that are available. And are you going to be speaking about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna, and thank you, Gabby. I would like to introduce 3L, Shannon Group, who's one of the co-chairs for PILF this year, and she has brushes and bags too. She's going to talk to you a little bit about how you can apply for and obtain a grant to perform summer or fall employment. Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah, Christy and I are both here from the Public Interest Law Foundation, and thank you for asking about PILF. So you've heard rumblings of it. All we do is fundraise all year to give money back to students. It's probably very helpful to get it and not have to pay something back. I've gotten a supplement on I got a scholarship over the summer and it supplemented my living expenses. I think Christy got a full grant. It could be incredibly helpful. That said, you have to kind of help us help you. We're raising money right now. Our auction is set for March 30th right now. It's a Friday night. So please mark your calendars now. It's a great event. But in the meantime, we're going to be phone banking, soliciting donations. The more donations, the more help we have, the more money we can give out. Last year we gave out 11 grants. This year I hope to increase that greatly. If you're a first year, our first meeting, please plan on attending, is going to be on January 25th at noon. And you'll find out a little bit more about the grant process, but I can tell you now because we're all here. There's certain requirements that we're going to ask for hopeful grant recipients. And that's to sell some tickets to the auction, volunteer with us for 6 hours, somehow either phone banking, working one of our events, and also sell some raffle tickets. It's not that hard to do, it's not that tedious, it's actually quite fun.
And many students sold more than they had to last year, many of them, right?
Yeah, so it's a social club, but in you're helping us, we get to give out more money. We gave out 11 grants last year. And please just email us in the meantime to get on our listserv. And I can let you know, but that's our first event. We're having a phone banking event. In the next 2 months, a lot is going to be going on. So if you plan on applying for a grant, you need to get involved now. We look really favorably on people that we know have helped us out. And Christy and I are available in the back for questions afterwards. And just let me say, even if you're not necessarily going into public interest, chances are your first summer is probably going to be unpaid and it probably qualifies. Our grant applications, we're going to probably accept them at the end of March, so you'll know by April, like beginning of April, whether or not you've been chosen, which can avoid other financial aid troubles, hopefully. Yes.
When are your applications available, like after?
They're probably going to be available end of February, March. But we haven't sorted out all of those details.
Do you randomly draw the people?
No.
Okay.
No, you have to tell us what you did and why you should get a grant. But basically, the more help that we get, the more money we have to give out. So if we could give every hopeful a grant, that would be great. It doesn't have to, like, some people don't get the full amount of the grant, some people supplement either a scholarship or like living expenses that way. And it just adds that extra cushion that makes it possible to work in public interest over the summer. And Christy has something to add.
Just really quick, the email is ggu.pilf.
Oh, yeah.
So if you take that.
Thank you.
And also, we have a Facebook page. It's called GGPilf. So you can go there. We'll start posting information regarding the scholarship application process and the auction itself. Auction's huge, one of the biggest events the law school puts on over the year. It's a couple hundred people attend. If you haven't been, it's like one of the go-to events of the year, so you should go.
Yeah, plan on being there. It's going to be on a Friday night this year for the first time.
Yeah.
$12, you get a drink, you get some food, and try to bring people with jobs to help us raise money. If you can. 'Cause they'll be bidding against you, so the more money the better.
I'll just say, in terms of the application process, I did get a full grant this last year and funded part. I had a full-time internship over the fall, and it was very helpful. Yeah, I supplemented that with the federal work study, so it actually was very beneficial. I'll just say, when the applications go out, get them in early, especially also the federal work study, just having gone through that process. The other thing I'd say, just even though, like Shannon said, we look for, if you're interested in public service law or public interest law, this PILF is like home. It feels like home. Like you want to support it because it's about you or about what you want to do. So even though the application has requirements, I can't imagine that you would not be doing that anyways for the organizations, the area of law you want to go into. But for the application process, you have to, help with the auction in a variety of ways, opportunities that we can provide you that. And the application also talks about like why you want to go into public interest law, what your background is, and so. And additionally, when you get the application, a lot of people ask, well, what if I don't have a placement yet? And even though at the time you apply, you don't have to have that placement at the time because we're going to ask like general interest areas. But at the time that the grant is awarded, you actually have to have a placement.
When's it awarded?
It's usually, I think the committee gets together sometime like shortly after the auction. The applications due in early April. So it's kind of coincides pretty well with the process you're going through for the interview, unless you're like so ahead of the game.
Because PIPS Day is in February, so.
Right. So you're already doing PIPS Day. You're working with LCS to get an internship. So that process kind of takes a little bit. So don't worry that you have to have it. But by the time you start, you're not going to get the money unless you actually have an internship.
Generally, the applications are due either at the end of March or beginning of April. The committee that's ran by the students, by the way, awards them in April, so you'll know that you're getting the award. It gets paid out to you in two disbursements. One would be right at the beginning of the summer regular term, which I believe is May 29th, and the other one is right around the middle, don't know the date, right? I believe it's right around the middle of June. So whatever award you get, you'll get half beginning of June, and then, the other one is towards the end of June. But you'll know that what you're getting most likely at the end of April.
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah, even before that, because as soon as we get the tally from the auction, we know how much money we can give out. And don't be dissuaded by all of our requirements because they're not too burdensome, and it's a really great event. I've done it the past 2 years, Christy's done it the past year, it's a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys will come to our first meeting.
I'll just add this last thing, if you're thinking about like the grant. So last year we raised $22,000 for PILF. This year we hope to significantly increase that, only because you're going to all help us. But we do hope to increase it. So the grant ranges, I think, we're from like anywhere from like $1,000 to $3,500. So these are not like $10,000. These are grants that help supplement what you're already got going on. The more money we raise, the more possibility these grants can be much larger for different kinds of commitments, and that's something that the committee would love to have that problem and start looking at how we might disperse the grants in larger amounts, but that's about the range that they are right now.
Any other questions with regards to summer funding?
So there was a mention of scholarship. Is that for tuition assistance, or are there other sources?
Outside scholarships,
Yes.
they can help you depending on what the agency is. They can give you the money to, it's a private scholarship, so
So
whatever they want.
where would we look for those?
You can go online, there are a couple websites.
A good one is PS LawNet for folks who went to the Getting on Track session. We talked about that. They have links to national databases for public interest money.
One that we usually refer students to is the San Francisco Bar Association. They have a good, they have a lot of scholarships listed out there. And when we get them, we put them out as well.
I was gonna say, before I got in, I was just looking around at scholarships, and Yale has a pretty good available, list of scholarships that are available, and that aren't just for Yale students, they're and
Whatever's out there.
Yeah, the link to that is on PS LawNet. And also for folks who are on the PI Bulletin, the Public Interest Bulletin that I sent out, I recently announced a wonderful scholarship opportunity with the California Bar Foundation, specifically for students who are particularly interested in public interest work. And those scholarships are prestigious. They give out quite a bit of money, and Golden Gate students get them every single year. So, sorry, Kristen.
And I don't need to,
Because I don't like.
So I strongly encourage you to apply.
but I'm still left just a little confused. Are those only for tuition assistance, or are they also for living
It's a
assistance?
private agency, so they will say you will get $2,000 to do whatever because you applied and you qualified. It's up to the organization. Some say it's just for scholarship, some say it's for your living expenses, so it's private. We don't know what it's for. When you look at the sites, they'll tell you, you can get X amount for X.
Okay.
And
the
the
bar,
bar undirected, so it just,
and the one you just mentioned, sorry?
the California Bar Foundation is over, that's undirected, that's general assistance.
The one that you just mentioned, do they, because for second, third year students are applying, second and third years are gonna have more law experience, whether it's internship pro bono, do you recommend as a 1L to spend your time in doing that application when you're competing with 2 and 3Ls?
Yeah. I'm sorry, we just had a conversation about how expensive the school is, and if I'm presenting an opportunity in which you could get several $1,000s for free, and all you have to do is write a one-page statement of interest, I have no sympathy for somebody who doesn't, who leaves that on the table. Apply, what the hell? You don't get it? At least I know who your name is. Maybe you have a better shot next year. Oh yeah, Liz applied again. She's persistent in her commitment to public interest work. Who knows? Don't leave money on the table.
You would be surprised how many students don't submit it because there's so many other people applying for it, I'm never gonna get it.
It's nonsense, you have no idea what your competition is.
And there's a lot of people that don't apply. We do have, this doesn't apply for summer, but we do have special scholarships available. So regardless of any merit scholarship you have, you're eligible to apply for our special scholarship programs. Those applications, and more information will come out for that. Those applications are available mid-March, and they're due the week after finals. They're awarded over the summer, and they are awarded to you for fall and spring of next year. Those special scholarships, we have many donors that have given us money for GDU students, and the scholarships can be for students that went to a Bay Area high school or live in the Bay Area, or a female that's coming back to school after an absence, or being from Fresno County, or being various little things, or being for various different reasons. And you have to submit an application and a one-page essay. We have, 700 to 800 students. I usually get about 100 applications a year. So
That's crazy.
do it. Yes, do it. Always apply. Yeah.
Okay, when you say the forms and information is coming out, how do we obtain said information?
So
In an email?
update your email address on your GGU for you, not with us, because we pull the record from there. I call the registrar and said I need a listing of all current students. I get it. We email it out.
So we all get it.
Because it's available to all students.
Yes.
And out of those 800 students that get it, I get 100 applications. So a lot of people don't take the time to do it. They're like, whatever. And it's free money. Again, it may not be a lot, but it can range anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000. That's the average awards for those, for taking the time to write an essay.
And that's not the same with PILF. There was about 50% of the people who applied got a PILF grant last year. So put in the work, exclude themselves, so you guys are ahead of the pack, and the chances are good.
Yeah. We have to stop. I'm sorry to say. We did mention earlier something about loan forgiveness. I encourage you to reach out to me and Gabby. I do a lot of research on these programs. I talk to a lot of the national experts. I constantly go to webinars on long-term loan forgiveness. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I put my email address there on the board. And that's about that and any other questions you have.
For summer financial aid, once the forms are available, which will be the 21st of February, we will do an email blast to everybody. We will put a notice in law school news, and we will also have additional info sessions for financial aid specific. If you're interested in one of the specialty programs like Paris, HLP, STEP, any of those programs, they will also have info sessions, and we'll be there talking about financial aid. So you'll have several times where you can come and talk, email us. But right now, everybody's going to do their FAFSA. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.